Hey, it's Liz D'Alto, and this is the Untamed the Wild Soul Woman podcast. From body image, sex, spirituality, money and relationships, to motherhood, creativity, business, communication, and desire, Untamed the Wild Soul Woman is the place to come for real stories and powerful advice to help you reclaim and redefine womanhood in the 21st century. What's up, wild ones? It's episode number 152 of the Untamed the Wild Soul podcast. Today's guest is Patricia Moreno. Patricia has been training, mentoring, and educating people all over the world for over 30 years. In an effort to end her own struggle with her weight, eating disorders, and body image issues, she created the intenSati method, a life-transforming workout which combines her expertise in fitness, dance, martial arts, yoga, nutrition, meditation, and spiritual practices. I know it sounds like a lot of things all jumbled into one, but I've tried this practice and it is amazing. I remember a few years ago, today's guest spoke at a friend's event, and hearing some of the people I trust most to be discerning about spiritual mentors absolutely rave about her. Like they couldn't even get over how deep and powerful what she shared was for them. I'm happy to report I felt it to be the same exact way by the end of this interview with Patricia. And this is one of those kitchen sink conversations where we covered so many things and somehow it all gelled together beautifully. We talked about parenting as a spiritual practice, what to do when the parents don't necessarily agree on everything, and we even got a special visit from her daughters at the end as they got home from school, which was super sweet. We talked about the problem with a dieting mindset and how to make positive, sustainable change, living in life's questions, transforming your concept of self, and my favorite part, she shared the origin story of her life-transforming workout, the intenSati method. Enjoy the interview. I can't wait to hear which part you love most. And because it's episode number 152, if you want to find links to any of Patricia's stuff, always visit the show notes page. The show notes page for this episode is at untameyourself.com/episode-152. Also, remember, you're always welcome to come on over into the Facebook group after you listen to reflect, share your insights, ask us questions. The Facebook group can be found at untameyourself.com/Facebook. Elizabeth D'Alto here, your host for the Untamed the Wild Soul podcast. You already heard me introduce Patricia Moreno. I'm super pumped to have her here. Patricia, there's one question the podcast always starts with, and nobody gets to avoid it. What do you love about being a woman?
Being a mom, having birthed a child, and having that experience of being able to mother someone is by far it. That was a goal of a lifetime. And the fact that I had the privilege to actually birth a human being into this earth is by far the thing I'm most proud of and most grateful for.
I love that. I was having a conversation with my friend Dana a couple of days ago. She runs a great business called Boss Mom. And she was saying how, I don't know if it was an article on the Huffington Post or wherever it was, that there was like a single woman who didn't have children making a comment how, if new moms get to take 6 weeks off, I should get that too, just because I'm not children. And we were just laughing because, I don't have kids, but I have so many friends with kids. I'm like, did that person think that you guys were taking a vacation? It's like
that is no vacation.
Quite an experience. And what was that? You have one little one, yeah, or more than one now?
I have three.
Where the hell have I been? This shows you
I only birthed one. Okay. I only birthed one. So my wife birthed the other two.
Oh, okay. So this was something I wanted to ask about. I know it's super personal, so if you don't want to get into it, you don't have to. But I was going to be super curious about how women in a relationship decide who actually births the baby, but you've both done it.
Well, originally it was that I was birth or die. Like I am birthing, I don't care if it's a puppy, but I am birthing somebody's something. And if it's mine or anybody's, I don't care.
Okay.
There will be a birth happening through me. And my wife didn't care. Like she really did not have the same desire I did. And then once we had our first, we're older moms and we're like, we can't leave this child without a sibling. And she was like, you made it look so easy. I'm going to do it. And then she gets the twins
Oh
And
my, oh, so it was twins. It's so funny.
his twins.
Oh man. And that, so why were you so passionate about needing to birth something like through your own body?
One, I wanted to experience what it felt like to be pregnant, right? To have life in me. And just, I knew it would be so deeply profound. And it's one of those things that there's just no other way to experience it. And my whole goal and mission in life is to understand and to experience love on the deepest level. And I just believe there's no deeper love than the love of a parent and a child. And I don't think that you have to birth a child to have that love. And of course, I would have whatever, that I would have still loved my child exactly the same, but I'm really grateful I had the opportunity to do both, because there's just no love like that love. They're just, in my experience, and what most people say, like, you just don't even understand what it means until you have a child. And I did not want to leave this earth without that experience.
I love to hear that so much. And I'm in the camp of someone who could like take it or leave it. But I always say reserve the right to change my mind. Like I'm 33 now. So who knows if I just haven't hit the hormone surge where it comes into the body and it's like, must make baby. So, but I love that perspective.
That urge earlier. I mean, I had the urge. I always thought, oh, I'll have a baby. I'll have a baby. But then you marry a woman and it's a whole nother thing. It can happen by accident. And it's not, you have to put effort. And then when I got to that stage where it was like, it's now or never, I was just like about out of hell. Like, this must happen now.
Yeah.
So I can totally get where you are, and understand that feeling too.
That's cool.
But it might change.
And it might change. I always say that, right? And I think it's such a taboo topic sometimes because I think, and so I'd love your perspective on this. We're going to geek out on so many things. These conversations go all over the place. But because I'm not a mom, I always love really grilling the moms on being a mom because we have so many moms who listen. Maybe I can find a way to say mom one more time in that sentence. But okay. So talk to me about what I'll just call like mommy wars. I know that people find a way to be competitive about everything. My way is better than this. You guys do that way. And so with the extra added element, which may or may not be a thing for you, of being married to a woman, how does that show up for you guys in whatever is your community, or like maybe the schools where you take your kids, or maybe within your family or whatever? What's that dynamic like, or what's that like? Choosing to do things your own way, because I know you're also a very healthy person, so I'm sure that influenced your parenting and stuff like that. Yeah. You can take that wherever you want to take it.
Oh my God, so many pieces to that. First of all, whether I think it's you're two women or a man and a woman or two men, you don't agree on everything, and it becomes the kind of most important decisions you make in your life, how you raise your kids, and you only know what that is when the kid actually shows up.
Yeah.
You only really, really know. And there's a lot of things we don't agree on. There's a lot of things we don't agree on.
Can you give me some examples or no?
Parenting, as far as like discipline, right? Disciplining, we're on opposite ends of the spectrum. I'm like, let's talk it out. Let's see how they feel. Let's sit them down. And she's like, let's, go the other extreme. I'm like, okay, let's chill out. Let's find a happy medium here. Right? Food, like for me, I'm like, I can't wait to have a kid that never eats sugar and has all organic and perfect food. She's like cheese puffs and frozen pancakes and whatever. I'm like, oh dear God, help me. So, but it's good because we can't be extremists. Like we're having to find kind of a middle of the road thing, but also like everything, just everything. Everything we have to negotiate on, when in our real life before kids was like, she's really has her area. She likes things super clean and super neat and on time. And she's very structured. And I'm so not that way, but I can live into her way because I think it's an upgrade, right? Yeah. It's an upgrade to have things really neat and clean. But then you bring kids into the mix and it's like, okay, you got to ease up a little bit now, right? Yeah. We got to like chill a little bit. There can be a little dirt on the hands here and there. So I think ultimately we're good for each other because we balance each other and we kind of help each other not be so extreme, which, we even went to therapy one time and the woman was like, you don't want to neuter each other. everybody can be themselves. The kids can have parents that are parenting in two different ways, right? Bedtime doesn't always have to be exactly the same. If you want to put essential oils and read a book and have music playing when you put them to bed and she doesn't, that's okay. Like, that's okay. And that was a big learning process too. Like, just let the other person be themselves.
Okay, this is awesome because I feel like I never would have thought of that. That it's like, okay, you don't have to compromise on the way for your household. You can each have your own way. They might conflict a little bit, but then, so I'm curious, how old are your kids now?
The twins are 4 and Olivia's 6.
Okay, so have you seen the impact of that? And I mean, I'm just seeing how amazing that must be to have kids see two different ways of doing things that probably change over time anyway. Almost like it's giving them permission to like be their own little people too.
Or be bossy in another. Why are you leaving your shoes out? Most of it, it's like my daughter said to me, why are you leaving your shoes? You're leaving such a mess out there, right? So it's typical like my wife. I'm like, excuse me, I'm the mother here. You don't have to like, seriously, she tells me that, why don't you make the bed? Why don't you like, I'm like, hello?
That's
So
funny.
it's funny because they tend to side one way or the other, but it's really sweet because, you know, the older daughter, she loves to come to class. She loves to work out. She loves to move her body. I mean, not work out, but loves to move and loves to, you know, she does karate and she does gymnastics and she does all the things I wish I did when I was little.
Mm-hmm.
And it's fun because my wife would have never taken her to all of those things.
Yeah.
Right. So they get a really nice mix of all of it. And then there's some things in parenting where you really have to try to agree upon, at least that when one parent is taking over and saying, is the one giving the discipline or the authority, you got to back them up. You can't be on opposite teams.
Yeah.
Right. So there's got to be times that you actually come together and say, okay, this is what we're going to do in this situation. So, you know, it really makes you grow. Parenting just makes you grow. And because you love these little beings so much, you know, you're really willing to grow and for the better, I think, for the most part. So it's a great way to evolve, to have yourself evolve. And I always say you don't know your spiritual practice. Like you might meditate and you might like be all woo-woo, but you don't even know your skills till you have kids. Like those skills are nothing until you get to the level where you're raising kids.
Okay. I wanted to ask this as you were saying that. I know. I've had people, I think I've taken your class like once in New York City back in the day, or maybe at Soul Camp. But I've heard from so many people, you know, Terry Cole, who introduced us, many other people. I remember you went and spoke at one of Kate Northrop's retreats years ago, and they were just like,
you there?
I wasn't there. She was like, Patricia Moreno is a straight up spiritual gangster. That's not what Kate said. You know, she doesn't talk like that. That was my interpretation of it. But I love that. And I was going to ask that as someone who has had these lifetime practices, how did it change? Because I find a lot of moms say, I don't have time. I can't do it. I don't have a moment to meditate or whatever. But I think like kind of like what you're saying, like this is what you train for. And then the kid comes and you're like, okay, I can't just throw all that practice out the window.
No, it's a time to like get gangster on it and get up and do it because seriously, the people who will pay are those closest and nearest and dearest. The people in your family get the best of you and the worst of you. Mm-hmm. And they shouldn't always get the worst of you. Because, you know, when you're close, you know how we are with our family. We're like full out, whatever. We don't hold our tongue. We say things that we probably wouldn't say to other people. And the kids should have the best of us. So this is when you do not give up your meditation practice. I don't care if it's 5 minutes a day, 3 minutes a day, whatever it is. But if you can't regulate your level of stress and your level of upset and you're like throwing plates or yelling at kids or expecting, here's the biggest piece. This is the biggest piece. And this is what I always tell my wife too. You're expecting them to regulate themselves to stop crying, to stop screaming, to stop fighting with each other, to regulate their emotions, and you're not regulating your emotions, good luck. Because if you're trying to have your kids be all calm and nice with each other and you're not demonstrating those skills, it's not happening. And your life is going to be a complete stress mess. You've got to apply that ability to be able to regulate yourself and to de-stress yourself so that you're not always yelling and screaming and reprimanding in ways that are just not the best. And from what I experience, exercise and meditation are the two things that just do not get to come off my list.
That's great.
Great.
I think it's amazing that you grew up one of 11 children.
11.
11.
I can't even understand that as a mom now. Like, do that. Why would anybody do that?
Did you not, like, even after you had your first one, were you not like so much more compassionate to your own parents after you were like, you had 11 of these?
Well, after my first, I literally remember, because I used to always think, why the hell would anybody do that? And then I had my first, and I remember really thinking, oh, that's why. Oh, that's why. But then I got to 3 and I went, what the hell were they thinking? I went back the other way, like, this is insane with 3. It's impossible. But, after 3, the older ones, like in my family, the older ones took care of the younger ones.
Yeah.
So it's a totally different dynamic. And it just depends on the kind of lifestyle that you want to have.
Yeah. So you said something earlier about food, which made me think, I grew up eating like Fruity Pebbles, pizza, like everything under the sun, all kinds of food. And I've always thought, man, how different would my life have been if like no one introduced me to like sugar, chocolate, cake, and things like that. And I know part of your story is you were overweight as a kid and got into like massive, like I guess people call it over exercising, right? So just like, okay, well then I could justify the things that I eat. I used to do that system in college. I'm like, well, if I work out, I can eat whatever I want. And I think
it works when you're younger.
So talk to me about that.
Not really.
Kind of and kind of not. So I'm super curious because I know obviously you have a much healthier relationship to all of that now. You created this awesome practice, intenSati, which I also want you to tell us about. But start in the place of like the stuff with food and like the system of checks and balances. How did you actually get yourself out of, oh, well, if I ate this, I need to do this? And like, because that's a real hamster wheel. And I think people apply that kind of logic to all kinds of things in their life.
Well, it's a good question. And I think that, there's always that like checks and balances, right, that we want to make. But the thing is from the mindset that you're doing it from, what I was doing was I had to be thin at all costs because my whole self-worth was wrapped up in it. And I I was on a diet when I was in 3rd grade and then got to 215 pounds and started binging and purging and over-exercising because with my whole heart, it was life or death for me. I really believed that. Like, if I am not looking a certain way and if my classes aren't packed and I'm not popular, I will die. Like, I will die. It felt that like stressful to me. And so thin at any cost meant really drugs, whatever, anything. But because they were unsustainable means, there was always like this 30-pound up and down and up and down. Mm-hmm. And I was ashamed and embarrassed about that too, because here I was like leader in the industry, TV show, traveling around the world, teaching other instructors, packed classes, cover of magazine, like everything that you could think of that would be a successful fitness career. I was doing it. And I was like, how could I be so miserably failing at this? Like, I must be the biggest loser asshole ever. Like, nobody could ever know, because here I am saying you should diet and exercise, diet and exercise, diet and exercise is the answer. Here's how you do it. And I was a mess. And I was doing a TV show, and the producer finally, and I got super thin, short shorts, short bra top, and got the show. And it was a daily show, and it was a live show, 5 days a week. So as my usual, after a few months, started gaining weight again. And then after a year, the producer calls me and it was like, basically, what's up? And I don't know what he said because I think I went into total shock. But it was really at that point where I thought, listen, I am so strong. I can literally work out 8 hours a day. I am really, really strong. I can not eat for days. I can diet harder than most people. How could it possibly be that I am so good at these two things and I'm losing at this game? There is something here that people are not talking about, because it can't be that every millions of people are losers or weak or stupid or whatever you want to call it because they can't fix this situation. It can't be. So I really went on a journey of like, I will be the one to crack this code. I will, because otherwise, what else am I doing here? If I say I'm in this industry and I'm not telling the whole story, then I do not deserve to be here where I am. Because if it's just about jumping up and down in front of a class, I'm already doing that and it's not enough. So I really went on a journey of trying to figure out what's that piece that has people create sustainable change in their lives, like positive, sustainable change, not 2 steps forward, 2 steps back, not all of this like super unsustainable things where you're just gonna diet for like as long as you can and then go back to like exploding into your normal things. And I just started studying a lot of mindset stuff, a lot of the stuff everybody knows, right? Yeah. Your thoughts create your reality. Your self-concept is what drives you to be who you are. What you think about, you become. All of these things. But what I really realized that information is useless unless it's put into a practice. Who doesn't know? Who? I ask this class in groups all the time. Raise your hand if you think being positive is better than being negative. Raise your hand if you think you would be more successful if you had a little more self-acceptance and self-love, or that you could follow through on what you said you were going to do, or that you were more positive. And everybody always raises their hand. And then I say, but do you know how to get yourself to be that person? And nobody knows how to do it. And so I thought, that's my piece. That's my piece. Yeah. I'm going to train people to develop that positive mindset, to use language and action together to develop, basically to learn how to activate positive states. Because what I learned early on was if you generate a positive state, that means if you decide at will, you want to feel more joy, you want to feel more gratitude, or you want to feel more confident, and you learn how to do that. Not because something outside of you changed, not because someone said, oh, you're great, or not because you lost a few pounds or made more money or got the job or someone asked you to marry them, but for no reason at all. Do you know how to do that? And if you know how to do that and you do that consistently, you literally change the architecture of the brain. The brain absolutely changes. And that state that you've been rehearsing becomes a personality trait. So you change your personality by rehearsing these states, which is what we do anyway, but we do it unconsciously. So what I teach people is, how do you do it consciously? How do you decide the person that you want to be and actually develop yourself to be that person? But it takes practice and it takes physiology, right? You can't just do an affirmation and go, I'm strong, I'm strong, I'm strong, la, 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 5 minutes gone, good. You have to embody it. You have to activate it. You have to invoke it. You have to understand that you can turn it on from inside yourself. And when you do that and the inside world changes, the outside world has to change. It's quantum physics. It's law. It's what you sow is what you reap. But the how is what I felt was missing. And that's why I created the intenSati method.
I love that so much. And, you said so many things that I'm like, yes, I just ran this. At the time this interview airs, it will have been a couple months ago, but I ran a training called Unconsume Yourself. And everything you just said was like in the freaking training. And this is one of the things I love about our world. It doesn't like, there's so many people like doing similar things because so many freaking people need it.
Yes. More. We need more. We need more.
But that piece that I don't think a lot of people realize, when people go, well, I don't have time to meditate. I'm like, sure you do. You're doing it every day, all day long. You're
Yeah.
just doing it on things that you don't actually want and you don't even realize. Every time you're worrying, right? There's that saying, worrying is like praying for what you don't want. Every time you're worrying, every time you're beating yourself up mentally, that's a meditation on all the shit that you don't actually want in your life. So even just like, I think people assume all those things mean I have to like sit for 45 minutes or I have to like be in an ashram or like it needs to be so complicated, but nope. There's all these other things. So tell us about intenSati. And the thing I'm super curious about, first tell us what it is and how it works. But then I want to know, just this is selfish for me because I love innovation. I know that you took many modalities that you had practiced and you put it into a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm always just so fascinated by people's creative processes. Was there trial and error or it just like came as a download? Like how did you get the things together that work so well for you?
Oh my God. I love creating and I love this process because it just is like, makes me so excited. Once I decided like, okay, something's got to change. And I didn't know anything. I didn't know really even where I was going to start. I didn't know what piece it was going to be. Here's the piece that I always tell everybody. Once you set the question, live the question. If you're living the question, what happens is your brain is an answer-seeking machine. It's a goal-seeking machine. So you prime your brain to be like a GPS and to point out of the millions of bits of information that are coming at us, your brain will find what it is you're intending, what it is you're asking, always. So if you're living a question, you're telling your brain to seek out and find the answer, and you always will. You always will. So that's what I started doing. And there were a few really key points. One, I was in Fiji and I was at a workshop, a retreat, and Deepak Chopra was talking about your self-concept. You know, anything you say after the word I am determines your destiny, right? Because it becomes your self-concept. It's what you believe to be true about yourself. And he was saying something to the effect that whatever you believe is your self-concept, you must live according to it. You must. You're compelled to it. It's like a magnet. You're forced to live true to your own identity. But we don't always understand that our identity is changeable, that we can change our own self-concept. So he was talking about this, and I was like, it settled in, and I'm in the shower afterwards, and I'm like contemplating what he said. And I have this moment of like, holy shit. It was like, I just had this like visual of myself going to the gym. I'm so fat, I have to work out. I'm so fat, I have to work out. I'm so fat, looking in the mirror while I'm working out. I'm so fat, I'm so fat, I'm so fat. Because my whole life, imagine from third grade, from as long as I can remember, being the chubby one, the fat one, the one, you know, and that self-concept was so strong and always trying to work against it. And I was like, oh, yes. It was like, so I literally ran back, like my hair wet. Everybody was gathering for the next session. I took over the stage. I literally got in front of the group of people and like was like that, like preaching this like understanding that I just, and it was so deeply profound. I was like, that's how I got, like, the affirmations were so important. Yeah. That we had to speak it was one of the things, but the next piece was even more magical because I was at a Tony Robbins seminar and he's talking about state change, right? Yeah. You have to change your state because your state inspires a behavior. Don't change your behavior to try to get to a new state. Change your state, that inspires new behavior, that leads to change. And he was talking about the process of developing and activating positive states, and that it takes focus, physiology, and language. And that when you do all of these three things together, it awakens a state. And we were marching on the beach and we were doing affirmations, and the affirmation, because he was saying, and this was another thing he said, he was like, he called them incantations, right? Incantations is like putting a spell on yourself. And he says the difference between incantations and affirmations is that affirmations you could literally just read, right? I am strong, I am strong, I am strong. I hope that time is up. Okay, that's 10 times, I'm done. 3 minutes of. But it doesn't really mean that you have felt it, right? An affirmation is just that, an affirmation. But he was saying an incantation means you feel it. You stand, you put your shoulders back, you put the expression on your face, you speak with the tone, you literally invoke the feeling in your body so it becomes an experience, right? So he's talking about this, and I'm like, there's something here, there's something here, there's something here. And we're marching on the beach and we're doing the affirmations. All I need is within me now. All I need. And we're doing it. And there's like hundreds of us. And I literally go, holy shit. And I start crying and I start laughing. I'm crying and I'm laughing, and I run to the gym and I get on a bike and I put a towel over my head and I'm pedaling the bike and I'm doing affirmations and I'm laughing and I'm crying. I'm like, this is it. I'm going to combine my expertise in exercise with the freaking affirmations. This is going to be, because he was saying too, but like, everything, and this was Tony saying, everything in my life I've succeeded at because I've done incantations. And if you don't do incantations on a daily basis, you are not doing my work. I was like, fuck, yes, yes. But then I'm like, now what?
Now what?
So what does that look like? What does that look like? So then the next part was even more cool, because I called the manager at Equinox, and my classes were packed and everything was great and life was good, right? But I wanted to do this new class, which I didn't even know what it was. And I called her and I just said, I have a new class. She's like, what's the name of it? I said, I don't know, but I need to start it next month. She's like, okay, you can have Saturday mornings.
Oh, no way. What were you teaching at the time?
I was teaching kickboxing and high intensity aerobics and dance class and yoga and
all kinds of things.
Everything, all kinds of things. So classes were already packed. That I was already doing great, right? And so I had enough clout to be able to say, I want to do a new class. I get a new class.
That's awesome.
But I was teaching the class and I didn't know what it was. I had hand weights at the time and I'm just trying things. But it would be like, in the moment, I would come up with something and then I would go down and write it down and be like, yes, that's it. Yes, that's it. And I realized while I was teaching the class that what I was doing, what was happening was I was creating a new vocabulary. That instead of doing a move like this and saying, okay, everybody punch, that I was calling that the name of a state. Mm-hmm. So I was saying, do strong, do courage, do enthusiasm, do acceptance and love. And so, but it didn't happen until I was actually teaching in the process. So while I was teaching, I'd be like, oh, I'm creating a vocabulary. Oh my God, this is amazing, so right? Cool. And so just like the biggest thing and the biggest message for me in that is like, you can't wait till you have it. You have to do the best you can and then create and evolve and create. But it happens in the process of actually doing it. Like I couldn't do that without an audience. I couldn't do that without the feedback in the moment with the people. And it was just a beautiful process of it, like birthing itself and being created. And it just came out of, who knows? It came I love that. From other places. And it was just a joyful experience to be able to do it. And not easy, because I wasn't well received. People will be like rolling their eyes and tapping their toes and be like, seriously, you want me to do what? And I'm like,
you want me to say what? I will confess, I remember, so in Wild Soul, and I appreciate this, I'll thank you partially for the inspiration, because in Wild Soul Movement, it's slow, sensual movement. It's not meant to be a workout, but we do use, I call them mantras, that's the word I've chosen, and we just do one. And one of the reasons why we just do one is because when I would come to intenSati classes, I didn't have a dance background, so I'd be like, okay, I could either keep up with the steps or I could keep up with what you're saying, but both is challenging for me. So I'm like, if I stick with one mantra, I can remember what I'm saying. But and what I appreciate about it is it short circuits the monkey mind, which I think is what Tony is talking about, right? Like if you change the state, then the behavior can change. Because I think that's one of the impediments to the behavior change. It's then what starts happening in your head. And it goes back to what we were saying before, which is you're meditating on shit that you don't want. I love that moment. Those moments. I love origin stories of things.
Yeah. It's really great. And the thing that I'm actually working on now that I'm super excited, which will probably be out by the time this airs too, is what kind of leads back to what you were talking about before, where people were saying, I don't have time, I don't have time, I don't have time, I don't have time. And my response being, you must make time unless you're super happy with the way your life is. And so I'm creating, it's called The Practice. Mm-hmm. And the practice is a way to start your day in this intentional and deliberate way. So it's a guided morning ritual, and every practice is for something else. So there's the practice for love, the practice for weight loss, the practice for healing, the practice for many things, which I haven't even created yet. But the idea is that the access to really being a conscious creator, which is really what we're talking about, right? You have two choices. You're either doing it on automatic and you keep getting more of what you have, 2 steps forward, 2 steps back, but there's no big shifts there because you're already programmed, your personality's the same, you respond and you react to life in predictable ways, which means when things get rough, you always do the same thing. When you get stressed, you always do the same thing. And if you want to really make change, you have to be able to deal with challenges. It's inevitable. It's a must. You don't get to skip that. You do not get to skip that step. So you've got to learn to be able to be present enough that you can make new choices that are different. And you have to be able to be conscious enough that you're not reacting to life, but responding. And the access to that is being able to be present and to have a mind that follows your will. If you do not have a mind that follows your will, then you cannot create anything other than what you've been creating. So I'm super psyched about this because I think if people invest just a few minutes, first thing, just get up, set your alarm. I know it's hard. I know we like to sleep. I know you have kids. I know you got bills to pay. I know everybody does. But the successful people in life, the people that are really doing things that are out of what they're normally doing, they either have a meditation practice, an affirmation practice, an exercise practice, a journaling practice, a breathwork practice. There's some practice they have where they develop themselves to have self-mastery. That means mastery over those things that end at your fingertips, your mind, your language, your vocabulary, your breath, your response. But what I'm putting together in the practice is all of these things.
I love
Breath work,
that.
meditation, mindfulness, affirmations, rehearsing your day, shower with gratitude and appreciation, and then visualize your goal is already done. Because if you're not doing that, I promise you, it's nearly impossible to actually have that level of fulfillment in your life if you don't have mastery over your mind.
It's so
true. You're a slave.
And the fulfillment. So I remember back before I was doing these things consistently and having practices like you're talking about, I had some friends who were way more successful than me. And I happened to know at the time, behind the scenes, some of them weren't necessarily great people all around, you know? And I would have this running story like, I'm such a good person. I care so much. How is it possible that these people who don't give a shit are doing so much better than me? But the fulfillment piece, what I didn't know was the areas in which, yeah, they might have had a lot of money, but it wasn't necessarily fulfilled. Or maybe the relationships were suffering. And so I love that you're looking at the whole picture and going, okay, but how does it all feel? I love that word fulfillment. And the other thing that you just said that I want to come back to, because this is huge. I love looking at developmental gaps. And so you said something about being present and conscious. I happen to live in a community that I've learned so much from living here in Southern California. So one of the reasons why I got to interview East Coast people on a regular basis so I can plug back in to how I actually feel. But there's a lot of consciousness, right? A lot of people waking up, but not necessarily stepping up, showing up, growing up. And in a lot of cases, that means being present, which means bypassing in a lot of ways. It's great. You meditate and you feel connected to God, or you did the plant medicine and you had this transcendental experience. But How are you bringing presence? Who are you when there's people in front of you? Are you actually listening when people are talking to you, or just waiting for to say the next really enlightened thing that you can't wait to say,
Oh, it's a funny world. Yeah, it's a process. It's a process for everybody. And I really think that's the biggest thing, right? Like it's great that all of this is happening. We can really see it, especially as a trend in the fitness industry, right? There's now like this real shift towards being more mindful in your workouts and caring more than just about your butt and caring about the whole being. And I really think that's just like progress. And the progress doesn't happen like someone hitting you with a bat over the head or surgery, right? It really takes a consistency and a dedication and time. It takes time. It takes time. It takes time. But the thing that's really what I really love about just all of this stuff becoming more popular and more people doing it is that it makes it a hell of a lot easier for me.
Yeah.
Because I don't feel like a weird Lone Ranger. Because as you know, like
I was gonna say you're not a weirdo anymore.
I started intenSati 15 years ago.
Yeah.
15 years ago, where people were like, what are you saying? Like, what are those words? What's in it? Like, they didn't know any of the books I was reading. They didn't know any of and it was really exciting at the time to be like, oh gosh, you get to introduce so many things, but it was just like pushing a boulder uphill. And I feel like, oh my God, my time has arrived.
Yeah.
Like my time has arrived. Like people are receptive. People get it. People want it. It's not a weird thing. It's like, well, yeah, that's like, duh. Why aren't we doing this more? And so no matter what level they're coming out at, like, I really can appreciate that change is happening. And yeah.
Because it's all part of we kind of all have to go through the developmental stages. I love that. I love that you're like the OG of this stuff, right?
She said that to me yesterday. I'm like, oh, gee, what is that?
Original gangster, girl.
Yeah, well, now I know.
Oh, you know. Okay. So it's like, do you watch any TV or no?
Like what? I do watch some.
So someone had told me, I binged on this whole series on Netflix. There were only 6 episodes called The Get Down. And it was about how DJs and hip hop came up in the Bronx in the 70s. And it was like, who knew what it would be now, right? Like when those guys were first spinning records and scratching things and combining things. This is why I love stuff like that. I love the origin stories. And you were like that. You were like the DJ of mindfulness and fitness, and you were putting on the 2 turntables, and you're like, well, what if I combine this and this and try that? And some people were like, what the hell is this crap? And you were like,
yes,
but just keep doing it. Quick break in the show, y'all, to remind those of you who are listening in real time, and that means it is the month of January in the year 2017, that Terry Cole and I did a webinar on January 11th. Those of you who listened to Terry's podcast, episode number 147, know we started a huge conversation around relationships, codependency, manipulation, control, all the bad habits, wounding, and patterns that wreak havoc, not just in our romantic relationships, but in all of our relationships. So we did this webinar. It was amazing. It went almost 2 hours because we stuck around. We answered tons of people's questions. It was so good. And the replay for that webinar is totally free, and it's available through January 31st this month. So if you want to listen to that webinar, you can visit untameyourself.com/real-love-webinar. I'll spell that for you. It's untameyourself.com/REALLOVE-WEBINAR. Real Love-Webinar. It'll be up till January 31st. And also, Terry is offering an amazing course called Real Love Revolution. I am a proud referral partner for Terry because that woman has absolutely helped me revamp my relationships and heal from so much stuff I didn't even friggin' know I needed to heal from. So for anyone who's interested in Terry's course and signs up through the link on that webinar, which is untameyourself.com/real love, I have some extra Wild Soul Movement bonuses for you. You get 3 full-length Wild Soul Movement videos where we use mantras that will help you really integrate and embody all of the teachings in Terry's course. So those are my gift for those of you who sign up for Terry's course. You can forward your email confirmation receipt when you sign up to hello@wildsoulmovement.com. But all those instructions are also on the webinar page. So again, that link is untameyourself.com/reallove-webinar. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and check it out sometime before January 31st. And even if you're not interested in the course, again, that webinar is free, and what we covered on it is freaking awesome. Thank you so much, and let's go. I'm so curious. I love asking people this too, because we always get people on the show who did something awesome. It wasn't originally well received, or maybe they failed along the way or whatever. How did you keep going? If there were times when people were rolling their eyes in your class, and I have a feeling the answer is probably duh, my own practices I just told you about. But
No, not at all.
Cool.
The first few years, I think I cried before every class, because I'd be like, they don't care, they don't want to hear. But then there was the other voice that was like, this is the only thing that works. I cannot go back underground and do what I was doing. It's impossible for me. I will never do that again. It's a lie. And I believe so much in what I'm doing that my mantra is always, I will not die with this in me. I will not die and be the only one that ever taught intenSati. I will not die that this does not, I've put so much work into it. It's there's just no freaking way that when I leave, nobody probably even knows whoever invented it, but it keeps on going and keeps on going. And everybody in my community knows that's true. And all the leaders that I've trained know that it's true. And even leaders who've gone off to do their own thing, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The idea is that I get to say, I created this. Yeah. I have the satisfaction, and I get to say that I even spurred other versions of it. Yeah. And that feels so good. It's rewarding. It's beautiful. And it's really just my life's work. Yeah. And so there is no other thing to do for me. Yeah. That just is my life's work. And where it goes and how it lands and how people use it and what they do with it, it doesn't matter. Yeah. It doesn't matter.
I don't remember if I was having this conversation with someone offline or in a podcast interview the other day. This is one of the reasons I have the podcast. I was like, I'm having these killer conversations with people all the time. I better just start recording them and letting other people eavesdrop. But I think this is the difference between a calling and a career, right? Because it's literally the thing you couldn't not do. Totally get that. Oh, how did you name it? How did you end up coming up with the name for it?
Oh, so good. I wanted to come up with a name that people would have to read the description of. Mm-hmm. I wanted to have a name that wasn't like cardio yoga or, whatever, dance affirmations, a name that was just, I wanted it to be a name where people go, what is that? That was a name that I made up. Mm-hmm. And so I went through my mindfulness books and I sat with a friend in Starbucks. I'm like, we got to name the class. So we just took my favorite books that I was reading at the time, took the mindfulness book, and I found the word sati, and that sati meant mindfulness. I went, I like that word. And then we're looking, and I found the word intention. And I'm like, it is, because this is about intention. This is about, and we played with it and we're like, intensity. Holy shit. Intensity. It's a play on the word intensity, right?
Love that.
It's so different than intensity. So you got to look at it, but you still say intensity. But then the change happened because I was like, is it intensity or intenSati? And then for really a year, I was like, I don't know. And people would be asking me in class, is it intensity or is it intenSati? And I would be like, I don't know. And then I realized I was creating core sati and yoga sati and dance sati. So then I was like, it has to be intenSati. Cool. Because the other doesn't work. but it was fun in that moment to like create the word that fits the thing and just play with, I get to make up a word because I made up this method, and I want people to have to really see that it's an original something that's not just a mix of something.
Yeah. And it actually goes and actually works. It's so great. Oh my God, I love this so much. So is there, at the time we're recording this, we can check back with you because we do show notes. We'll have a link to the practice stuff. Do you know what link is going to be yet, or will I put it in the show notes?
Well, it'll probably be thepractice.com or Patricia Moreno. The website's going to be, because I'm changing the website to patriciamoreno.com, and then about the practice will be on there.
So in some way, shape, or form, if people go to patriciamoreno.com, they will be able to find the practice.
They will find
Okay, great. Oh my God, so exciting. So so when we talk about on the show untaming yourself or like your wild soul and all that, it's essentially like same as you. I like words that people go, ooh, what is that about? What does that mean? Because like when I say wild soul, people are like, I need to untame myself a little bit. I'm so tame. And then some people go, I'm scared. I can't just like fly off the handle. I have responsibilities. I have things. I can't just be a maniac. But it ultimately means being true to yourself, right? Like untame just means stitching the conditioning, the programming, questioning all the things, like exactly how you arrived at the original seeds for intenSati, going, this cannot be. This cannot be. What's happening? This dieting shit doesn't work, this whatever. So anyway, I want to go back to the mom stuff. We're looping this thing around full circle. I get so excited. How is being true to yourself different before and after kids? I've never asked anyone that before. Or is it even?
I think it's more, everything is like way more intensified, right? Because you have your kids come home and be like, somebody was mean to me, or someone doesn't like to play with me, or someone called my hair ugly. You know, you have all of these opportunities where they come home and you're like, oh, wow, what am I going to say about that? And you know, they just give you those opportunities to make those decisions over and over and over again. What am I going to teach here? This is a teachable moment, and what is it that I do want to teach? And so, you know, being two moms, where they come home and be like, people keep asking me why I don't have a daddy and why I have two moms, or, you know, so there's so many opportunities to teach about, you know, doing what you love and being yourself. And I think that the highlight is just being able to ask them those questions. What do you love? What do you like? And be able to foster that level of even self-reflection at that young age, right? You don't have to be what I am. You don't have to be a dentist like your other mom. You don't have to, you can do anything that you really love. And I think I've over the last so many years have been so working on being authentic and being myself that I think I'm just reaping the rewards of that, of being able to kind of pass that same kind of viewpoint on.
Cool. Can I ask how you answer that question when they come home and they're like, kids keep asking me why I don't have a daddy, and like, why do I have two moms? Like, because sensitive subject for some people.
Yeah, well, one of the things that we do is we really try to surround ourselves with other two mom families, right, with kids. So it normalizes it a little bit. And, you know, I had one time my daughter come in and she was like, one of you needs to be a boy. We're like, no, not one of us needs to be a boy. We're like, yeah, because you're not supposed to marry a girl. We're like, yes, you can. You can marry a girl. And we had to have this whole conversation. And we're just like, you know, there are different ways that people fall in love and different kinds of families. And you're so lucky you have two moms. One mom is good, but two moms? Come on. You are really blessed. This is like a special thing. And I'll tell you the coolest thing that happened not long ago when my oldest she must have been turning 4. She's 6 now. It was her birthday. And I said, I was putting her to bed and I was just like snuggling and being like, I am so glad you were born. Because I don't know if you know anything about our trying to get pregnant, but it took years. I mean, it took probably, I don't know, 20 tries of like it was serious, uh, challenging, very challenging. So it was her birthday, and we're saying, oh my God, I'm so glad that you came. Do you know, I prayed so hard for you to come into my life. And the day you were born was one of the happiest days of my entire life. She said, Mommy, you know what? Before I was born, I said to God, I want two mommies. And I looked everywhere for you. I looked all over the world. I looked in California, in Alaska. I looked all in every state. And she said, and then I saw you. And I smiled. And I kissed God. I said, there they are. And I left. And I came to you.
What the hell?
I was like,
Did you sob? I'm crying.
I was sobbing. First of all, we really don't say God. We don't talk about God. God is not a word we use. And she was just like, I looked for you everywhere. I looked all over the United States. United States. I looked everywhere. And I saw you, and I kissed God. And I said, thank you. And I came to you.
How'd you not die?
I died. I love that story so much. She's 6 in that story. But I kind of like sit with that. Oh my God, they're going to dive in the door right now. I'm
good.
so.
It's okay.
Look,
we were just talking about you. Hi, friends.
That's Stella.
Hi, Stella.
That's Olivia.
Hi, Olivia.
And then there's Sophie. Okay, you guys have to go because we're busy.
No. We're almost done. You can have your mommy back in a second.
Go, please. Go, my love. Go.
Oh my God, that's so
please.
awesome.
Sorry, I forgot about that little moment. But we were talking about them.
It's perfect. It's real life.
Please, shut the door.
I love it.
Okay.
Totally cool. We're not going to edit it out. Like, this is the Untamed the Wild Soul podcast. Your kids.
Okay, Sophie. Sorry, my love.
Hi.
Say hi. Give me a kiss. Go with Chichia. Thank you, my love.
Oh my
Thank
God,
you.
I love it so much. Oh my God, I'm so happy I just got to see them after that story.
It's just the best. And you know, it's just like, that just kind of reminds me, like, it's all good. And the fact that kids are asking them, it's okay. We need to be able to deal with these kinds of conversations and stand for what we are and who we are. And I just teach her, just say you have two mommies and that you're really happy you have two mommies. Like, what are you going to say? It's all good.
Yeah, so cool. Oh my God, that was like the best wrap up ever. Thank you so much. So people, again, we said this a little earlier, but just in case you missed it, if you want more Patricia Moreno in your life, if you want to check out intenSati or any of the other things she has coming up, go to patriciamoreno.com. We'll have it in the show notes. We gave you the link to the show notes in the beginning of the episode. This is why we do this. Yes. To show people all the various ways available to live and to be and all the stuff. Thank you for sharing your origin story. So freaking fun. Yes.
So good. I love what you're doing. You're doing amazing. I love your stuff. I love your soul. I love everything you stand for. And I'm so excited to see more of the work that you're doing. And as soon as I start a podcast, I'm going to call you.
Yep. Oh my God, we'll do it. I'm already in. Sign me up. And I'm happy to help with anything. Bye.
Bye.
The food is marketing in our brain. We go, it's free food. We go to an all-inclusive resort. We go to all-you-can-eat buffet. We go to someone's giving out free food at work. We feel like we need to take advantage of it. Otherwise, there's some level of FOMO or whatever. So it's unlearning a lot of those kind of like old constructs, you know? And so how do you help someone? My number one is a preemptive approach. Having things every single day that satisfy you, so that they take the edge off enough so that you can get to the next day without feeling deprived. And then you get to the next day without feeling deprived. And you get to the next day. So by the time you get to Friday, you can take it or leave it.